I made it and I can't even get the key right. Welcome to episode 69 of the Champagne Comedy Podcast, where we talk about the best Australian comedy show from the 90s ever made, Frontline, and other D-Generation comedy tidbits. My name is Matt, and joining us on this podcast today is Alison, Daniel, Kim, and Tony. Yay! Nearly a full house. We're just missing...
Sorry, what number episode was that?
69, dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
The men had to get it in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What could be a more appropriate episode for number 69 as well?
Don't ruin it for me.
Nah.
So much raw sexuality in this one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I'm sure it turns someone on.
Thanks everyone for listening to the bonus episode of Jeff Smart previously, which was kind of meant to be this episode now, but 2 weeks ago, but it didn't really happen because we thought we'd squeeze that in. So when we say episode 69, this is the actual episode, and other bonus episodes aren't counted as part of the number total. So this is a proper episode. And I think the Jeff Smart chat has just finished. Thank you, Jeff.
He was an excellent guest. We didn't have to ask too many questions, and we got heaps of great stories out of him. So
yeah,
absolutely great
one.
One episode back if you haven't listened to it already.
Oh, he was just absolutely amazing, and we could have gone on and on. We could have been... He was like a real-life Bruce McAvaney. Yeah. Just full of knowledge, info, stories, and... Yeah.
Wait a second. Are you insinuating that Bruce McAvaney is some kind of fictional character? This guy was the real Bruce McAvaney?
No. I'm just saying that... He
went on and on, and we loved every second of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just when you said real life Bruce McAvaney, I'm like, wait, so Bruce McAvaney's not real
okay,
life?
Yeah, fair enough.
Satirical Bruce McAvaney, perhaps.
Okay, yes, there we go. So good on you for calling me out on that, Tony. and you know what?
Being called out.
Hey, I've got to say, some people have actually mistaken you thinking that you're Tony Wilson. Because
I wish.
Speaking of Tony Wilson, who is a friend of the podcast, his footy movie is out doing the rounds at the moment, so get out and support him with that. In regards to Backchat, I'm going to call this out right now, and I've got witnesses because they were there at the time, and I believe The Late Show or Working Dog have updated the design of their T-shirt because I called out the design because they were using a different font. So it was the same font but modernized a bit more. So I had the more modern Late Show T-shirt. This is at the Actors. This is on the Gold Coast. And a fan, Leanne, was wearing her 30-plus-year-old T-shirt as well. So, and when I was standing in between Michael Hirsch and Santo, I'm going, hey, look at that. Look at the A. The A's got a different tail, different lick. And then Santa was going, oh, but this is the modern font. And I'm going, yeah, excuses. So if you look at the store.workingdog.com and look at the Late Show T-shirt now, it pretty much resembles the 1992-93 design. So come on, get onto it.
Yeah,
have a look.
so now I've got to get a second edition because I've already got the kind of one with the modern version. I lost my original.
So yeah, that means anybody who bought it before the Actors basically has a collector's item on their hands.
I guess so.
And just as a comparison, look at the design of the hats that they've got of the Late Show, and then you can see the difference. So I'm going to give you... I'm pausing the podcast right now so everyone on here can have a look. Go on. store.workingdog.com. Go on. Hurry up.
All right.
Go on. You can always open it up in another tab. Come on.
Yeah. Use your phones. Do whatever.
Straight to the pool
The real
room.
question is, do you get any royalties for this shift?
No, I wish I did. So, because the shirts are like
Design consultant. That's a well-paid gig.
Oh, this is intriguing. This the sound of silence.
What's the old version?
Oh, do you mean we actually have to do this?
Yeah,
This is
go do it.
That's what I'm. I've got the iPad. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll look it up on my phone right now.
I can see
Oh
it.
my
Oh gosh.
God.
Okay, it is actually.
Wow.
They're side by side next to each other in the bundled product section on the front page.
Now look at the tail lick of the A on the hat, and then look at it on the T-shirt.
It's listed as the Matt Fulton edit.
Yeah.
Oh my
see?
God, there's a
Yeah.
Warwick Todd T-shirt. I did not know that.
And there's a Funky Squad T-shirt too now.
Wow.
And also the alignment. Anyway, so I called them out on it, and they've obviously fixed it because that was not like that a week ago. It is just popped up in the last day or two.
Shouldn't the pedantry button have gone off by now?
No, it's retired for the moment.
Oh, disappointing.
Yeah, we've overused the pedantry button. I think. Happy to.
That's
dust
because
it
we're
off.
really pedantic.
I was going to say, isn't that what people come for?
The Pedantic Comedy Podcast.
Yes.
Oh, fine.
I'm going to have to do it manually. I'm going to say pedantry every time someone says anything pedantic.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure, guys.
So with that, I'm just calling that out.
There's a couple of new shows that have been added to their on-demand service. The interview show Pictures of You, hosted by Brian Nankervis, and the celebrity cooking show Piss Take, Audrey's Kitchen.
No, Pistake.
That's the one. So, they're there for you to purchase.
I did notice as well that Audrey's Kitchen and Pictures of You aren't available on iTunes anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, well, especially
Okay,
Audrey's
so that
Kitchen.
might give us a hint then as to when stuff might be coming onto their own video on demand services. Basically, when the other outlets don't give us stuff anymore.
Well, I've already bought Audrey's Kitchen on iTunes when it first came out, and when they made the announcement that it's on their on-demand service, I've gone to look into the iTunes store and it's not there anymore. So I'm just saying, and but I can still download and watch it. But yeah, so if you're trying to get it now, you have to go through the site. Oh, and also Kim and I caught up and last week, and we met up at the famous dental
dentist.
surgery. Yeah.
At
I saw that
2:30.
video.
It wasn't
I
at
saw
2:30. It was at 10:30.
The much bigger announcement. This should have been at the front of the show.
Oh, no, it's fine because, then again, this is the first time in, I guess we're in the 5th season now and of this podcast, and we hadn't actually caught up. So there you go.
Yeah, being in
And
the
yet
same
we're-
city.
And you decided to do it just for people who don't know. This dentist place is one of the places that Tony and Mick did one of their street interviews in Sydney.
Yeah, the Jump in My Car. I like that with Tom Panos.
Yeah, who's now a real estate agent making millions selling houses because he must have got the confidence to be a real estate, an auctioneer and real estate agent just from being on TV.
I wonder if when he pulls up to the auction houses and so forth, you just hear the "Jump in my car" on the car stereo
that.
system. Yeah.
Okay, so just a couple of things. First of all, as Jeff Smart mentioned in our last episode, Utopia is airing in the UK on the Comedy Central channel. And thanks to somebody on YouTube recording all of the ad breaks, we can finally see how it's being marketed to the Brits. The visuals on this are sort of like crappy PowerPoint, but you'll still get the gist.
Welcome, valued colleague, to your new employment and the rest of your working life. Why not meet the team? Leading the charge is our unshakable CEO.
My swipe card's not working.
Where are you?
Here, at the door.
However, any boss is only as good as the team beside them.
We've got the preliminary report.
Good news.
No.
You're smiling.
Shouldn't be.
Our employees are passionate about their work.
Get excited, get ready, because Australia's being built.
You done?
Bang!
And health and safety is their top priority.
Do you know how to operate a defibrillator?
No, but I know how to pronounce it.
Hardworking, friendly, and detail-oriented. commentators.
Let's not forget, schools are this country's funeral. Actually, that should say future.
Meet the team yourself in the UK premiere of Utopia, Mondays at 10 on Comedy Central.
I'm surprised they kept the name, because wasn't there a British series called Utopia not that long ago?
Like a reality series?
No, there was a science fiction-y thing.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I think they did actually retitle it when it went on Netflix in the US. I think it was called Dreamland.
That's right. Yeah, Dreamland.
But they're showing just the first 2 seasons. But it's good to see anything new on Comedy Central because basically the Australian version of Comedy Central is shutting down in a couple of weeks from us recording, and I think the Daily Show is like the only new thing on the US channel. So
and there's only so much of After Midnight I can put up with.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and the other bit of news is that even though it's not technically part of the WDU, Working Dog Universe, Sam Pang has his own show coming up very, very soon.
Oh, not David Tench Tonight?
No, they couldn't get the old Pentium processors out to render him, I think.
All right, here it is.
Sam Pang Tonight, the show that will change everything.
Maybe we should dial it back a bit.
An unmissable TV event.
Would love you to watch, but I understand we've all got stuff on.
Exclusive access, hot stars, 24/7.
None of those words mean anything.
Miss it and you'll regret being born.
Yeah, I wouldn't finish with an ultimatum. Can you just let them know when it's starting?
Sam Pang Tonight, coming to Mondays on 10.
Thank you.
So, it's only going to be a brief 8-week run starting Monday, March 17, which, if my calculations are right, means that Have You Been Paying Attention might be returning on May the 12th.
Not to jinx it, but based on Ten's recent performance with Tonight Show's 8 episodes is optimistic.
Yeah.
It's a DVD release at least.
Still waiting for the 3rd episode of Rove's last attempt.
And you know what?
Well, still waiting for the DVD release of The Nation.
Yeah. And you know what? If you go on 10 Play, you can still see Sunday Night Takeaway reheated up there.
Oh, gosh. See, this is the thing, like, we say that we want a Tonight Show and we get Saturday Night Rove and, like, you know, we see Hey specials and think, oh, we should have a show like that. And, yeah, we get Chris and Julia. So
I'm sorry.
Maybe it's because they're crap. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I just don't think. I don't know anyone who's saying we want a Tonight Show back. I mean, it's sort of. It would be nice, I guess, if there was one on, but the list of television priorities, sort of a guy behind a desk interviewing people, is sort of already being filled by a bunch of, semi-current affairs shows at 7:00 at night.
Well, then again, what about, I'm sure Andrew O'Keefe will put up his hand and reignite his late night talk show career again.
Well, that's
maybe in front of a green screen on YouTube.
Well, I mean, it's just like you don't want an early late night show. You want a show that's on at 10:30 and there's people slacking off and mucking around and there's a bit of scope for silliness. But they just can't afford to do that now. Nobody watches television at 10:30 at night to buy the ads to make a show viable, even if it is just one person behind a desk.
Well, our only hope is that hopefully Survivor runs very, very late. Because we've a couple of things that have come out the weekend we're recording this. The first of which is that they're not going to announce who the guests are ahead of time. And it's going to be recorded as live at 8:00 on the Monday night.
Okay.
So a very, very quick turnaround to be premiering 8:40-ish.
That's so weird. Remember when there was Guy Sebastian on McAuliffe Tonight, Guy Sebastian on Greeks on the Roof, and then Guy Sebastian on Interview, Enough Rope? You remember the times where you just had that one guest who would just be on all three?
Well, this is the thing.
Like a roadblock.
Yeah.
If you watched McAuliffe's talk show last year, it was very much like these are the people who are doing the rounds because they've got something to promote. And these are the people that McAuliffe knows well enough to ring up and say, I need a guest. And otherwise, I mean, people don't want to go on talk shows because it's work and it's probably, quite stressful and takes up time out of their day. So unless they're promoting stuff, they go to ground. I mean, there's a show on SBS at the moment, which is like a cooking show where they go and they speak to people and they talk about, recipes their parents cooked. And it's like a combination of a cooking show and a, Australian story thing. And looking at the list of that, it's like, oh yeah, these are the same people who are on all these shows. It's just the same crew that will turn up all the time.
What's it called? Recipes of You?
Yeah, I think so, something like that.
But it's not Kitchen Cabinet or anything.
It's just it was a good show, but it was just another one of those shows with the same people. So, if Sam Pang can get different guests, that's going to be a big, help, because otherwise it's going to be, hey, look, it's that guy again. He's back.
If he has the steady hand of Conrad Sewell on as the first episode, he's won. He's won.
Oh no, save that for the season finale.
All right.
But yeah, look, we know his we know what Sam Pang is like from having been paying attention and the Logies and the front bar. So if you want more of the same, Channel 10, 8:40-ish Monday nights for the next 8 weeks.
Gold Logie award-winning stuff.
You might be able to help me on this. Isn't the front bar back as well?
Yeah.
Is it Sam?
It is, and in fact, Sam was missing from the debut episode. It was Lawrence Mooney in his place.
Oh, okay. Because Pang's been in the ads for it, and I was like, is he going to be doing 2 shows a week? That's good work.
It's all in this week's TV Week, packed with great family entertainment.
Oh, Jesus!
Daniel G, more talk, more TV, more guide.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, starting with the ABC. So after tonight's episode of Frontline, we've got Four Corners, then Media Watch, then the first of a new 6-part Scottish BBC comedy series called Atletico Partick. A soccer team prepare for the new season with their coach determined to make it a winning year.
That sounds like Ted Lasso.
Okay. Basically, I don't know anything about Partick, apart from a joke that Billy Connolly made in his audience with Billy Connolly's special, talking about how he used to follow Partick Thistle FC, and he has to call it Partick Thistle FC because all the Englishmen think their proper name is Partick Thistle Nil.
Right.
I know it's a stupid joke, but I like it.
Yeah.
On Channel 7, thank you, belated audience.
It's the big sport-loving audience that tune in each fortnight.
I like how that audience is just slightly sarcastic. That's great.
Yeah, it's like a Jimmy Carr audience.
Yes, make sure they're nowhere near the Como Centre, Channel 10 in Melbourne on Monday nights. Over on Channel 7, we've got Australia's Most Wanted at 7:30. Then at 8:30, we've got a movie. You can basically take your pick. If you're in Melbourne, it's Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult. Or in Sydney, it's Hocus Pocus.
Oh, damn.
Too much of a choice, Matt?
Naked Gun. Let's go with Naked Gun.
I suffered for Hocus Pocus then, because I would have preferred the Naked Gun.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to go for the Naked Gun, giving that choice.
Over on SBS, it's more Ericsson Cup highlights at 7:30. Then at 8:30, it's a new season of a show called Millennium Shift, The Search for New World Art. 2 rival art curators travel the world to discover Asia-Pacific's best new artists. I reckon if that sort of thing was produced today, it would probably have more of a reality TV kind of bent to it.
Yeah, the art world hasn't really been done over by reality TV, and there's an opening for you, producers.
I think if
I'm guessing a lot of pieces to camera, like I can't think of what it's called now. Auctioning old storage sheds and all that sort of thing.
I think
the storage hoarders type thing.
Yeah,
I think if
I'd love to see the bloke from Storage Hoarders going on about how this is whatever it's called. That guy just banging on about how the symbolism of this and how this is inspired by the Vorticist movement and all that.
The one time I watched Storage Wars, that's what they were doing. Someone brought in like a bunch of old books. And it was like literary analysis of these books. They weren't just like, oh yeah, old book, good on the shelf. It was like, this one's no good. This one could be good. It's like, no, you guys probably know your stuff. You get a whole bunch of weird crap coming in. You got to know what's worth money.
Oh, especially when you find a storage shed that when you open it up, you find a collection of Picassos there that have been missing, especially the one that he's done in Biro. Sorry, I apologise. I stole that joke from Club Veg Mallee. So it's one of my favourites.
Oh, look, I think if they did one of those shows now, it'd be much more focused on the money laundering side of things. What I can gather, the art world is just a way for you to take your shonky money and buy some piece of crap and then say, oh, wait, now it's worth 30 million because I just sold it to that guy for that. This money is all legit. And everyone goes, sure it is.
And you can see blue poles still in the on display at the nation's capital.
that was brought with legitimate government taxpayers' money.
I know. I like blue poles. I just thought that's the most easiest target. Yeah. Oh well. Anyway, as you were, Daniel.
Then the movie at 9:30, Piano Panier ou la recherche de l'équateur, better known as The Search for the Equator, from, actually, I'm not quite sure where it's from, actually. It doesn't say from
France? Is it from France?
No, sorry, it does say here. It's a Portuguese drama. A bittersweet friendship develops between two young women holidaying in Portugal.
Oh.
Rated M with sex references and language.
When do they go find the equator? When does the boat come into it?
I know. Again, it's making me think of yet another dumb joke. It's an episode for dumb jokes, this one. But yeah, just somebody saying, found it, it's over there.
Yeah.
It did seem...
Let's get back to our love affair.
Yeah.
Now, Channel 9 has tonight a double episode of Friends. In fact, it's one of the enormous executive producers. They said it'll be bigger in size and scope than a regular Friends episode. Tonight we go one step beyond. It's season 2, episodes 12 and 13, the one after the Super Bowl, parts 1 and 2.
Oh.
So, yeah, basically this is just over a year old. So it played after the 1996 Super Bowl. 52.9 million Americans watched the episodes, making it the most watched episode of Friends throughout its run and the highest rated post-Super Bowl program of all time. And there's a hell of a lot going on in the episode. Ross searches for his former pet capuchin monkey, Marcel. Phoebe sings truthful but inappropriate songs for children. Chandler encounters a former classmate that he humiliated in school. Rachel and Monica compete for the attention of Jean-Claude Van Damme. And Joey deals with a crazed fan played by Brooke Shields, who thinks he is the doctor character he plays in Days of Our Lives. The rest of the friends have to convince her with the aid of a lot of thrown beverages.
Yeah.
I am not Drake Ramore, okay? I'm not even a doctor. I'm an actor. I just pretend to be a doctor.
Oh my God. Do the people at the hospital know about this?
Somebody want to help me out here?
That's right. He's not Drake. He's Hans Ramore, Drake's evil twin.
Yes, it is true. And I know this because he pretended to be Drake to sleep with me. And then he told me he would run away with me. And he didn't.
And you left the toilet seat up, you bastard!
So there we go. A lot of guest appearances, along with Brooke Shields, who we heard just then. There's also Chris Isaac, Julia Roberts, and as himself, Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I mentioned that this aired after Super Bowl 30 in 1996. Dallas Cowboys beat Pittsburgh Steelers 27-17.
Spoilers.
My question to you all is, do any of you recall what the 1996 halftime show was?
I'm going to say it was the one that
Michael
was
Jackson.
controversial just because that's the only one I remember.
I think that was a few years after, wasn't it?
Not the wardrobe malfunction was like 2001. Yeah.
Well, was it
malfunction
her
a lot
brother
later.
Michael perhaps.
No, but it's kind of Michael adjacent. I'll put it that way. I'll give you the set list, and anybody can shout it out. Stop in the Name of Love. You Keep Me Hanging On.
Daryl Summers.
Baby Love. No, it's not Daryl.
Krista Krul.
You Can't Hurry Love. Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
Kamal.
Chain Reaction.
Diana Ross.
Yes, it is Diana Ross, Kim. So you get the fictional Tim Tams for that one.
Yay.
I was going to, as soon as you said Chain Reaction, I straight away thought John Farnham. I'm going, wait a minute.
Good. Yeah, this is one of this very small subset of songs, which there was a playlist that was played on the old Music Max channel, which was called Same Title, Different Song.
Ah, yes.
And yeah, Diana Ross and John Farnham would definitely fit in that category. So, just a little game. You can if you can try and think of different songs with the same title. At 8:30, we've got Water Rats. The water police interview a security guard who claims to have shot a robber in self-defense. Then at 9:30 in Melbourne, it's in Melbourne Tonight, and in Sydney, it's the Super League Round 2. Canterbury Bulldogs versus Cronulla Sharks. Anybody want to guess who won?
50-50 chance.
It would be the Bulldogs.
Nobody told me this was going to be a sports podcast.
Yeah, we've had too many sports references.
I'm sorry. We're sportsing it up.
Come on, this is a tangent podcast.
No, it isn't. It's not a tangent podcast.
Sport is
all right, hurry up, Carl.
It's not meant to be a tangent podcast.
All right, keep going.
All right, well, I think with that, I'd better wrap this up quickly and say Sharks beat Bulldogs 13-12. Okay, and we finish up with Channel 10. We've got Healthy, Wealthy and Wise. Lynn previews the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. Tonya makes a beanbag, and Ian prepares a rich chocolate mousse.
Oh.
There's something to eat in the beanbag.
I was going to say, maybe it's a beanbag filled with chocolate mousse.
Too many rich chocolate mousses and you'll never be able to get yourself out of that beanbag.
Oh.
8:30, Big Sky. Scotty takes Shane parachuting, but their adventure ends in tragedy.
They land in the beanbag.
I don't know why that's funny, but it is.
Skydiving and it ends in tragedy. That's kind of a direct line. There's no suspense that that's what's going to happen.
Oh, that's easy. They died of leukemia.
Well, see, they have to think up, all of these, soapy style plot points, but they have to have an aviation bent to it.
Oh, I'm fine with them being up in the plane, but when you get up in the plane and you're told the flight ends in tragedy, it's like, hang on a sec.
The flight ends in tragedy.
I thought this.
Do they end up having to eat each other? Is that the tragedy?
Yeah, there's no in-flight menu, so they go, oh, all right, who wants the finger?
Is it the bit where they get to the airport and they have the destination board and they go, I'll take the flight that goes to tragedy, thanks?
well, actually, I wasn't going to read the second half of it, but I think I will now. To make matters worse, his career as a pilot appears to be in jeopardy when a Civil Aviation and Safety Authority official arrives to investigate the company.
Right.
I don't think that one ends in tragedy. And then at 9:30, the other Australian drama, Medivac. The world's longest surviving recipient of a baboon's liver collapses at his own wedding, and the staff at Bethlehem West struggle to keep him alive.
What would have been more interesting if one of the stories was in Medivac, it's like, and they deal with a plane tragedy.
Well, yeah, where's the crossovers? Each week it's just scraping guys off the tarmac from the previous show.
But yeah, baboon's liver.
Was that a thing? Was that a thing in the 90s? I can't remember having a baboon's liver transplant, but I've never been very hip.
It's probably a thing for Australian drama.
So there's not a lot of baboons in Australia, so you'd kind of if you had like a kangaroo's liver, everyone would be like, "Great, we're on a winner here."
Yep.
Did they clean up the local zoo of all the livers in the baboons?
I think they would be like raiding gangs at night, breaking into organs from the monkeys.
Yes, black market livers.
Sounds like a Frontline story right there.
All right, yeah, speaking of which, let's get on with it.
Thank you very much, Daniel. All right, let's get into this. And I do have a very special guest who has decided to wake up, come online, and just say this one line. Yes, you all know who it is. Actually, no, you don't, do you? No. Anyway, I managed to wake him up, and he's ready to go in 3, 2, go ahead, Jeff.
Hello, I'm Jeff Smart. Welcome to Frontline, Season 3, Episode 3, The Shadow We Cast, broadcast Monday, 10th of March, 1997. Hey, that's 2 days before my birthday. Please enjoy.
Hey! Well, happy birthday, Jeff, for a few days ago as well. It's time of wedding, it would have just happened.
We actually spoke to him a few days before his birthday, so there you go. Yeah. As Jeff said, Frontline Season 3, Episode 3, The Shadow We Cast, broadcast Monday, March 10, 1997, with the synopsis being that an independent Queensland MP makes a controversial maiden speech. The Frontline team springs into action, and where does she get her... Now, I hate this. I'm going to admit I can't say the word properly, and I attempted the word numerous times. Prejudiced. There we go. So I'm going to copy and paste that if I screw it up. Reviews from demands Mike before introducing another story on Vietnamese heroin dealers. So I apologise in advance for screwing up that word.
So even in the synopsis, they kind of give away the irony that we're going to be clobbered over the head with a few times in this episode.
Oh, spot on.
I don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah,
it's an episode of Frontline where the media are bad. Oh my gosh!
Oh, shock horror!
Shock twist.
Well, this one, the spotlight, it's basically piggybacking on a really hot topic, which is still floating around.
Well, when you said a controversial Queensland MP, it's like, yeah, back then there was
Which one?
Yeah.
There was one or two, and now it's like a smorgasbord they're famous for.
The lively show with the smorgasbord. Thank you. Well, we're coming out of Marty's story about the Vietnamese drug trade and Mike leading into a teen discipline story. So that kind of sets the tone of what the whole theme is about. And Mike explains to Dom that he's reading a leadership self-help book by lead singer of U2.
Edward de Bono.
Yeah.
That kind of felt like it was a story that came up when one of them actually read a book by Edward de Bono. It felt very specific.
Definitely Rob. Because didn't Rob go off to America to do management training or something at some point? And I don't know. I feel like maybe Edward de Bono would have been chucked around in some American management training course.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like one of those prescribed books that they give you to... Speaking as someone who just went to one of those days a couple of days ago for work and had to speak to different chairs, like different hats. So kind of like different hats, but I had the self, the other, and the neutral, and I had to speak to the other hats.
Oh no!
Oh, sounds like an episode of Severance.
I have to say that when I Googled Edward de Bono's 6 hats theory, which is what this is all about, it did seem very familiar from various people slightly more senior to me who'd gone on these courses and come back and said, oh, you're a red hat, or, you're a this or that from whatever bullshit analysis they'd learnt the previous day. And what it encourages people to do is to start splitting up the members of staff into different categories, which are all a bit bullshit. And this is kind of adjacent to that, I would say.
If I was to write a book like that in regards to the hats and the colours, I would change the colours up just to make it more pissy and say, instead of, because his colours are just simply red, black, blue, white, etc. I would go magenta,
yellow and
cyan,
green.
petrol green, or turquoise, just to go that extra layer, because you've got millions of different colours, but why don't you just make it that little bit sophisticated, like baby poo brown?
A little bit sophisticated equals baby poo brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
You got shit on your head. Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of like self-examination and irony in when people are building these categorization systems for like workplace training, they really genuinely believe in them.
It does.
And so they go with serious proper colours, not puce or cyan.
Yeah, they've got to be strong colours, solid colours.
Strong colours. And, whenever there's red, you know that red is going to be like bad or angry or something, right?
Yeah, I think the red personalities are always the more problematic, and it's the green and the blues that are always the neutral, kind, soft people.
Well, see, I just did a quick look at Wikipedia. That's about as much research as I want to do on this. But yeah, red is feelings and emotions. Black is negative. Yellow is positive. White is facts and information. Green is new ideas. And blue is the big picture.
Sounds like an idea storm.
Yeah, see, depending on who you're listening to, then they might mean different things to different types of the analysis might be different. So depending on which person's book you're reading, because I always saw blue as kind of being more facts and numbers, and then you've got a different comprehension. So it's confusion all around.
Unless they've done something like change the colours to try and make a new edition of the book or something.
Well, not just that too. Maybe if they make it more entertaining, where they're saying all these metaphorical hats. What about, in primary school where you would have Easter hat parades? So you could just dress yourself up with a actual Easter hat with, eggs and stuff gluing around. They'll probably be a bit more inspiring instead of just these plain mad hatters, so to speak.
That would be the "What would Jesus do" hat.
I feel like also I've just realized this point. You said that like white was a clear, calm assessment, and then black is bad. Is that right? And that feels quite appropriate for an episode about the politician we're going to spend a lot of time talking to. Yeah,
it's all metaphorical hats, and also what they represent.
Keeping your mind focused on the problem.
Right.
6 hats.
I love hats.
No, they're not real hats.
Oh.
But they're different colours.
Oh, great.
Anyway, you start with the blue hat. That's a way of keeping emotion out of your analysis. Clear thinking. Actually, I wish I could write this up.
You want a whiteboard?
Yeah.
I'll order one for you.
Oh, great. That'd be good. Yeah, get one of those. Yeah, anyway, 6 hats, and black hat is the negative. Listen, you have a little flick through that. I'll be back in a tick.
Okay.
See, the person who will be an expert at hats is Dom.
Yeah.
I love the gamut of emotions that we get in the beginning of that clip there. We're like, oh, there's no actual hats. Oh, but there are colours.
Oh, great.
Everyone is pouring into Prowsey's office, listening to the radio, and the politician, Pauline Hanson, delivering her maiden speech to Parliament.
And challenge anyone to tell me how Aboriginals are disadvantaged when they can obtain 3 and 5% housing loans denied to non-Aboriginals. Mr. Acting Speaker.
What's happening?
This nation is
Pauline Hanson, maiden speech.
Who's Pauline Hanson?
Member for Oxley.
What's Oxley?
Federal seat in Queensland.
Where's she speaking?
Parliament.
Parliament's on the radio.
Mate.
How long's it been on the radio?
See, here's the thing. The original speech went for like 21 minutes, and that part which they played was roughly 4 minutes or so into it, because here's the original.
And challenge anyone to tell me how Aboriginals are
Anyway, I'm not going to play the entire lot.
Yeah.
You get the idea.
I think I told this story before, but when I was at university, that was one of the whole things that people were doing to analyse was, the media's treatment of Pauline Hanson, and someone got up to do a speech about it. But in doing so, they actually read out the entire maiden speech word for word in front of everyone, and we were just
Bloody
like,
hell.
is this woman actually going to read the whole thing? And she did, and because the whole thing presentation had to go for about half an hour, so hers went for
there's 20 minutes done.
20 minutes done. It's kind of like when you're trying to do an essay and you have to expand it by kind of rehashing things over and over. I think a lot of filler stuff was listening to her repeating that drivel.
Okay, because I thought the point which would have been made trying to do that sort of thing would have been like trying to listen to it being said by anybody other than Hanson, really,
Yeah.
and as to whether you agree with it or not, just because it's being said by somebody that's not Pauline.
Yeah, maybe for someone else's perspective, you might hear it a different way, but I think we all pretty much heard it the same way, to be honest.
No, that was Jane doing the voice of Pauline Hanson there.
Yes, I believe so, because when I did the audio comparison, Pauline's original speech her voice was slower, and because I tried to sync it up, and even though I think they're playing it on through the radio type thing, it does sound like Jane impersonating or replicating it, because I'll play it again. Have a quick listen of the part that was in the show.
And challenge anyone to tell me how Aboriginals are disadvantaged.
Right there, it sounded like Jane.
Yeah.
And then if you play this part here.
And challenge anyone to tell me how Aboriginals are disadvantaged.
The inflections are different.
I'm just getting the impression you want to keep playing that bit over and over and over again.
No.
No.
This is not my favourite episode at all.
Now, I wonder why they did that. Like,
Yeah,
unless there's
couldn't clear it, probably.
Yeah, maybe there's a ban on usage of the actual footage.
Well, you'd think on the one hand, it's news footage, so it's something you can access, but there are sort of limitations to how you can use stuff from Parliament. And it may very well have been that they thought might have been a bit iffy on a comedy show to actually use the recording from Parliament for it.
Well, they did edit it too, because towards the end of the radio version of it, it basically skips to the end where quote Pauline unquote is thanking the chair.
Well, I mean, it's probably just safer to do it that way. If you've got someone who can do a Pauline Hanson impersonation, why not?
Well, also it's dramatic license, isn't it? So they're cutting the kind of best bits, if you like, of that speech, so you can hear them all in a 30-second scene.
And also the inflections too. Maybe they wanted like when they've possibly used the original, or they've listened to it and they go, it sounds very flat or whatever, so they've done it to emphasise certain parts so they can base the storyline around it.
So yeah, we get to the end of the end of the speech, and Mike's asked his opinion about it, and his advice is to just ignore her.
Yeah, which is kind of what they should have done, really, but unfortunately it's the tabloid media, so yeah. We all know what happened next.
Meanwhile, Mike's wondering where Hanson could be getting her views from.
You know what puzzles me? Where does someone like this get her prejudiced view of the world from? Where? I mean, where does it actually come from?
Pauline Hanson, a woman with some pretty controversial views. Up next, University Blues, how overseas students are taking our kids' places. And outback joyriders on the wrong side of the law.
Yeah, that last part was a visual joke there.
Yeah.
Joke as in just the reference, especially when they're pixelated. The next day, Marty and Emma and Prowsey watch as the tabloids and radio are having a field day over Hanson's remarks. They know what Frontline's audience is like until Mike comes in.
Well, we're to change their perceptions.
Exactly. We're entertainers, not educators. All we got to do is get Mike to look a little bit more concerned, and we just keep fanning the fire. Mike!
Prowsey, guys, I'm a little concerned.
What's up, buddy?
I had the white hat on.
Sorry?
Oh, Edward de Bono, 6 Hats of Rational Thinking. You should read it.
Are there pictures?
White hat is calm, clear assessment.
That's us.
Now, Pauline Hanson, I did a parallel thinking session last night. Why is she so popular?
I have no idea.
Marty?
Beats me.
Em?
Well, I think her opinions
Em,
are based
would you
on...
get me one of those coffees?
Just when she was about to say something insightful.
I also like that line that Prowsey says, we're entertainers, not educators. Because I'm pretty sure, wasn't it John Laws when he had all that cash for comment stuff No, it was either Alan. It was either Alan Jones or John Laws, but one of them said that they weren't journalists; they were entertainers.
Yeah, I would say the line "we're entertainers, not educators" basically sums up all of Frontline. If you want 4 words to sum up Frontline, that'll be it.
Yeah. The trouble with that is then it's like, well, if that's the case, then whose fault is it that people are reading it the other way? Is the problem that they're an entertainment show that presents itself at news, or is it the problem that the audience thinks it's a news show when they're really just watching, an entertainment show? It's kind of like, well, where does the responsibility lie then if there's that distinction that people aren't picking up on?
I don't necessarily blame the audience for thinking it's a news show, partly because it's presented as a news show, but also when these shows started out in the, 60s or 70s or whatever, they genuinely were news shows that did proper journalism. And the gradual change of them into kind of dumb shows that just show sort of CCTV camera footage from the local servo or whatever, which is basically what Australian commercial news and current affairs is now, happened over a period of about 60 years. And you're not going to notice it over that time until suddenly, why Frontline was such a big hit was because it sort of honed in on that truth and people went, oh my God, yes, exactly, right?
Frontline was really at the point where you could make that point. Whereas now, if you made a show like Frontline, people would just look at you if you were crazy for thinking that a current affair as it exists now is anything more than service station footage and, the drag racing hoons the police can't stop. Whereas in the 90s, there was still that sort of lingering from, the days of when 60 Minutes started and that commercial networks were interested in actual news coverage. And that just sort of faded away. And Frontline was there to point out that, hey, while you were thinking one thing, they were delivering something else.
Good point.
Yep. I mean, those shows used to do international news at one point. It's a bit hard to believe, but they did. When we were kids, they did. Yeah, they wouldn't dream of going anywhere outside of Sydney probably, or Brisbane these days.
I'm sure there's plenty of stories on Trump going to air with, they'll find some angle that works for them. He's, working for that level of journalism everywhere else.
He's the local Trump supporter who's helping the kids.
Yeah.
That'll be something like that, won't it?
Well, did I tell you the story about a current affair stealing my footage?
I think it might have come up, but refresh us.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Matthew's Story Time, and I'll make this brief. So as part of my little website, my independent website, mygeekculture.com.au, and I was doing a taste test of, fancy foods, lollies, whatever. And one was all about flavoured milk. And this is when I could drink dairy at the time, but now I'm lactose intolerant, which sucks. So oak flavoured milk, they had different ones such as cinnamon donut, the Chiquito, Jaffa, etc. And I had made my first little video at my work at the time in the spare office room. Had a mate of mine who was working or has got film TV experience. And so he filmed this thing for me and it made it look professional, where as I was presenting it, it looked really amateur. But he polished it up and it looked fantastic. And it went up on YouTube. And suddenly, and this is like when, every time there's a product that goes on sale or whatever, and those limited edition things, there's always somehow get squeezed into a news report and classified as a news item. Well, what had happened was a current affair was doing a story on Tim Tams and the flavoured, different flavoured type things, based on random themes. So it was free advertising for Arnott's. And they used as a reference that other companies and food products do the same thing too. And what had happened was that because of that theme of the different special edition flavours, they were using as an example some other flavours and products too. And they used my video footage. They stole it from my YouTube account, and it was of the oak flavoured milks. And because it was really decent quality, what they had done is they pushed out the logo of my website from it and kept it in there. And so it wasn't until my mate who had filmed it, goes, hey, wait a minute, I filmed that. Did you see this thing on the Current Affair? And then when I've looked at the website, I'm going, oh my God, they've cropped out my website. And so when the footage they use, you see my hand gestures, but you don't see me at all. So they took it from that, and I complained to him.
Your head's cut off? Is that what you mean?
Well, my head was originally cut off in the footage, but you see where the camera is panning across, and you see my hand gestures going towards the drinks that are on display. But in the original video, you see my Geek Culture in the top right-hand corner. They had zoomed in and cropped it out. So, and it's a decent-sized watermark as well. They took that footage and then used about 5 to 10 seconds worth in their story. So I reached out to him and going, hey, why'd you do that for? I could have given you the footage or just asked permission. It's like, yeah, just give me credit for it. And when they did that, they go, yes, we used 10 seconds worth from blah, blah, blah. And I went, well, I didn't even say anything about money. I just said I'd like to be compensated of something somehow, like as in give my site credit, because it's independent and it comes out of my own pocket, just like this podcast. And so they go, oh, we'll offer you $200. So I just thought, you know what? Fuck it, I'll take it.
Yeah, of course, $200. Sweet.
$200, which paid for some lighting and equipment and everything else like that. So sent them an invoice.
That's the thing that TV does these days, though, isn't it? It gets footage off of YouTube or whatever, and it's sort of it seems to be this thinking that it's on the internet, it's free, right? And I've seen proper documentaries made by proper, real broadcast companies and stuff. And they'll use footage from YouTube that's really grainy because it's obviously a lot less effort and money than licensing the real footage from the actual license holder. And that seems to be allowed.
Well, I mean,
which is weird, particularly on news programs.
With our podcast, we have audio stuff which I try to give credit where credit's due, and just label it correctly, either on the site or anything like that. And there's review and critique, but this one was blatantly just taking it and then photoshopping out my logo.
Look, I think all you need to know about their attitude to other people's footage is every time that a news network in Australia gets a bit of exclusive footage, their watermarks are all over it. It's like giant Channel 7s across the middle of the screen. There's no way you're getting around there.
Running across the centre.
Yeah. And what sucks is if they do that when they've stolen the footage and they do that, that's the worst because it's
because they know what
do that.
They know what they're like, and that's how they respond to it. So basically, unless you do that to your footage, they're going to use it if they want it.
Jeez, I wonder where they get these ideas from.
Yeah, no one goes out in the field and does it, actual real journalism anymore. It's all just done on your desk and looking up other people's stuff on YouTube, and
it all costs money.
Yep. Anyway, sorry for that little tangent there, but I'd
you got
say
compensated for it, and your eagle eye spotted it as well, so that's good.
I didn't see the twist at the end where you got paid. It was like, hey, happy ending.
Yeah.
It's
a feel-good story.
Exactly, yeah. So again, I've still got the equipment for the lighting and everything, so good $200 purchase on eBay. After Emma returns back to Prowsey's office with Mike's coffee, and he palms it off, it's like, I don't want it anymore, to the whiteboard planning schedule, and Emma and Kate are mapping things out, planning the show, but Stu and Jace tell her not to rub out the footy tips because she's starting to run a bit out of room on the whiteboard, and Jace speaks again. Now, the new whiteboard arrives, much to Emma's joy, only to discover it's Mike's whiteboard that Dom has ordered.
It's a really flash whiteboard as well. It enables him to print out things that he's written on the whiteboard, which I think was quite a new technology at the time.
Yes, it's very fast.
One of those fancy Panasonic ones with the fax paper down the bottom that you could, print it all out on. Yeah.
Mike and Dom are working on the issues on Mike's mind, where wearing their green and blue hats, until the whiteboard delivery guy, Ray, played by the legendary Bruce Mansfield, puts in his 2 cents worth as well.
Minister Pauline Hanson. Now, what's something she said recently?
She hates migrants.
Okay, now where does she get her ignorant, prejudiced view from?
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, Dom. Green hat.
Green hat.
There'd be her friends.
Friends.
There'd be her lack of education.
The media?
What?
She'd get a lot of her ideas from the media.
What's your name?
Ray.
Okay, Ray. We're talking about where she gets her prejudice views from.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying we cause prejudice?
Give you an example.
This'll be good.
My wife's a Filipino.
Really? What's her name?
Dom.
We go out together. People think she's a mail-order bride. That's shows like yours that present those views.
I think you're picking an isolated case, Ray.
Well, I'll give you another. Mate of mine's an Arab. Everyone thinks he's a terrorist.
A lot of them are. I don't think you watch our show, Ray.
He does a good
How good is Bruce Mansfield as well?
Yeah.
And sort of, very, very adjacent to the recently departed Philip Brady as well. They were both, they were a duo on radio for quite a number of years.
Mike vents to Jeff about Hanson, as in Pauline. So that's all I'm going to refer to her as, not the band. But Jeff also calls out Mike for being upfront judgmental based on a singular speech.
Mike, there's this famous old legend about the devil.
Oh, yeah? Good. I like legends.
This man, he goes out into the desert in search of the devil. Spends 40 days looking for him. Can't find him.
Oh, that's sad.
Finally, he looks up at the sun, the truth, the light, God. Turns around, realises the devil is his own shadow.
So he did or didn't find the devil?
The devil was his shadow, the shadow we cast.
It doesn't make sense, Jeff. Who wrote that?
It's a Portuguese fable.
That'd be right. Portuguese. Try telling that to the people they massacred in 75.
Where?
Timor, when they invaded.
The Indonesians invaded Timor.
Why would they do that? They own it.
No, the Indonesians
Jeff,
wanted
they own it.
But the Portuguese...
Jeff, stick to weather and I'll stick to what I do best.
Poor Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff gets hard done by in this episode.
Yeah, that's a pretty good metaphor, actually.
Though
bang on about that.
So it is odd that Jeff is sort of not the voice of reason, but the voice saying, you've got to study Pauline Hanson's speech more carefully and find out what she exactly said, which is, I don't know, unusual coming from Jeff.
Unusual coming from the weatherman.
Yes.
And yeah, I also like Mike's. It's hard to tell whether he genuinely doesn't get it or he doesn't want to get it.
I'd say he doesn't want to get it.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things where if you get to Mike Moore's station in the media, you're going to have some pretty big blind spots. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do your job effectively. I mean, his job is to be the straightforward. His job is to be the salesman who sells the views that Prowse and the rest in the back room cook up. And if he's sort of aware that they're peddling dodgy goods, he's not going to be a convincing salesman.
Yeah, there's a bit that we didn't talk about earlier where, Mike goes to Prowse and he says, we shouldn't do stories about Pauline Hanson. And Prowse says, sure, Mike, we won't do any more stories. And then it immediately cuts to that scene where Emma's on the whiteboard planning out a whole week of stories. So, they are, well, we've seen this in lots of other episodes. They constantly pull the wool over his eyes so that Mike can live in this world where everything's fine and the stories that Frontline are putting out are good.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got a scale of not deluding themselves but sort of morally upright, Mike is kind of at one end of that scale in that usually his morals are usually pretty on point when he's not being lured by free stuff or, silly schemes. But it's just that his morals are on point, but he can be easily, tricked and worked around, and that can be used against him. Whereas
the art of gentle persuasion.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we see that in almost every episode, and there's that contrast and that tension, and you just think, oh, if he just had a little bit more awareness of what was going on, but yeah,
I mean,
he just falls
his
into the
views
trap.
on this at the start are what we would consider now to be the correct views. It's like, why are you giving this person oxygen? Just, ignore what they're saying and focus on something else.
Yeah, and
then when he tries to rationalise Hanson, he's blaming her lack of education or her friends and not seeing that actually it is his shadow, it's the media.
Yes.
Wow, that was deep. That's deep.
More sports reports.
Yes, come on. Now, live in the studio, Mike realises he's about to throw to a Filipino mail order bride story, proving Whiteboard Ray correct.
And he wants to drop it with 5 seconds to go.
So he finally
If
realised that one.
only that could happen.
The next day in Mike's office, he's being interviewed by journalist Joe Pearson about Hansen. Now, Mike says that he has many Asian friends, in which the reporter asks if she could interview him.
That's so random though. Oh, I have Asian friends. Can I interview them? What?
Yeah,
I was going to say, I've never done an interview. It's like, oh, you've got Asian friends. Can I speak to them too?
Yeah, who are they?
It's a bit like when George Negus interviewed Margaret Thatcher and he said, well, there's people on the street saying this about you. And he says, well, who are they? Could you name them? And he clearly can't.
No.
Well, Mike freaks out a little, but offers a coffee, in which he runs to the kitchen.
Hey, Brooke, quick. Who's some Asians I know?
What?
Asians, give me Asians.
The guy who cleans your car.
Who?
Mr. Chong.
That's not his real name, that's just what I call him. Who's like a friend?
Michael Chang,
Good, who's he?
the tennis player.
And I interviewed him, didn't I? Keep going, what else?
Les Gok, Victor Chang,
He's dead.
Jenny Key.
Jenny Key's another one. I've got another one. Good on you, thanks. Now, coffee.
Gosh.
There's also a rather concerning bit in this interview where he describes Aboriginals as immigrants.
Oh, that's right.
What?
Luckily, that was pointed out that was not actually a fact.
Yeah, but I know that Mike Moore is kind of self-deluded and sometimes quite dumb, but how dumb can you get with this guy?
Well, I think it's a very stupid view to have, but it's the kind of view that you do. People will sometimes, in discussing these things, skirt up to that, where in their mind, immigrants is a category that includes people like everyone that's not like them. And so
not white.
Yeah, basically. Our Aborigines, they're not like me, so they're immigrants. But it's like, no, an immigrant is somewhat different. An Aborigine is the opposite of an immigrant as far as, what you're talking about is concerned. But yeah, there's a lot of people, and it comes through every now and again, that's how they think, that it's like, me, I'm a real Australian. Everyone who's not like me, not a real Australian. And yeah, that covers a lot of different groups.
Prowsey manages to get Hansen to come on the show for a pre-record, and now to convince Mike, in a gentle persuasion, to interview her.
Pauline Hansen's office just called. She wants to come on.
Frontline?
I told her to get stuffed.
Good on you. Not having that woman on our show. Already given her enough publicity.
Peddling a prejudice.
Exactly. That is such blue hat thinking too. Calm, clear, no ego, no emotion.
I don't care what she's been saying about you.
What's she been saying about me?
Nothing.
No. What's she been saying about me?
Oh, out of your depth, you don't know your facts. She's gonna nail you.
What?
Ignore her, mate. She's ignorant.
Hey, she's out there peddling prejudices against me.
Well, now it's personal. She can definitely come on.
Yep. And now to the pre-record with Hansen, and doesn't it go well?
Look, I represent the views of mainstream Australia.
Oh, really? You're not just being xenophobic?
Please explain.
Fear of all things foreign?
No, I welcome anyone who can make a contribution to this country.
Oh, really? Well, I don't think you've read your own speech. You call for an end to Aboriginal welfare.
Where does it say that?
Where does it say that? It says it on, well, what do you call for?
Call for welfare on the basis of need, not race. If anything, this is anti-racist. There are Aboriginals that are disadvantaged, then okay, we should help them. But if they are not disadvantaged, then why give them handouts?
Well, that's, yeah.
Well, that is a nice satirical approach to the infamous 60 Minutes interview with Tracy Curo from 1996.
There are 866,224 Asian-born Australians out of a population of over 18 million. Now, is that in danger of being swamped?
I don't believe those figures.
Well, these are from the Department of Immigration.
As far as I'm concerned, they're book figures. I don't believe those figures.
Are you xenophobic?
Please explain.
Xenophobia means a fear of all things foreign.
No, I don't think I am.
That also sounds familiar too, doesn't it, Daniel?
So many pauses there. Well,
they're just book figures. What? This is it's very Trump, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
it's very alternative facts.
We've got alternative facts. You know, it's all that, isn't it?
You can prove anything with facts.
Yeah.
Actually, the weird thing for me, because you can see the whole 60-minute story on YouTube. It's about half an hour, and like watching that interview, it was kind of interesting for me for a different reason. Like, you know how there's the song "Ride on Time" by Black Box?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the vocals for that were actually lifted from a disco track in 1980 called Love Sensation. The vocalist's name is Lolita Holloway. And so, like, I was very familiar with Ride on Time, but it was probably only last year that I actually heard Love Sensation, and sort of seeing the lyrics that I know more familiarly, basically in a different setting, in a different context, in a different order. And so, yeah, sort of seeing the 60 Minutes thing, thinking about Pauline Pants Down to Come.
I was going to say, is that?
I kind of had a similar sensation of, yeah, I know where these words come from, but I've never heard them in their original context.
Oh, like this.
I don't like it. When you've turned my voice about, I don't like it. When you've voted One Nation out.
So is that because you're a little bit younger and you didn't know at the time?
I think so. I was definitely not politically minded at the time. So yeah, I mean, Pauline Pants Down hadn't happened by the time of this Frontline episode.
Well, it's a hidden track on
basically
Triple J's Hottest 100, Volume 6, I believe, 1998.
Oh, well, yeah, that might be that I Don't Like It song. They're definitely not doing the first track that happened, called I'm a Backdoor Man, which is freely available on the internet. But I think even to this day, the ABC are not allowed to play it. Anybody else can play it, and you can listen to it freely on the internet, but the ABC definitely can't play it. I'm a lot more familiar with the jaunty jingle that was on Martin Malloy. If you could play a bit of that.
Explain.
I know, the jaunty pairing of Pauline Hansby's catchphrase.
Explain.
And the theme from Please Sir.
Explain.
I'm going to be hit with copyright big time on this.
Well, from the composer of the theme from Please Sir.
Yeah.
Explain.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I had much fun this afternoon, basically building up my own little version there.
Congratulations. That was a nice replication of it, recreation of the original.
Nicely done. Before we move on from Pauline Hanson's comments, just to drag things back down to the boring level of political examination.
Please explain.
Yeah. Don't worry, I will. It just struck me as really, well, from the vantage point of 2025, it struck me as a really weird hill for the the Frontline crew, as in Working Dog, to get Pauline Hanson on to justify her, this is my views on Aboriginal welfare, anti-racist, because today, if you've thought about it for 5 minutes, you know that what she's basically saying is, instead of having, race-based welfare, we should have a group that decides who's worthy of welfare, and that group will be me and people like me who are going to decide that Aboriginals are not worthy of welfare. And it's just like kicking the can slightly down the road to say, instead of having race-based welfare, we'll have needs-based. It's just that no Aboriginal will need welfare as far as we're concerned. You guys can all go get a proper job. And it's just like we sort of know now that kind of talk is what people were saying about Pauline Hanson. It is basically racist talk. It's just that she's crouched it in a certain way that makes the racism less visible, but it's
makes it more palatable.
Talk. Yeah, it's like instead of saying we're giving people benefits because they're Aboriginal, we're giving it to people who deserve it, and no Aboriginal deserves it. What a lucky coincidence. We're not being racist. We just realised that these groups don't deserve welfare. And yeah, it's just like, really, is that the part of her speech that you want her to clarify and have Mike Moore go, maybe that's a good point? Which I guess back then it was like, well, she's not saying something racist. We, can point that out. But these days you would just know. It's like, well, no, that's as racist as what people were saying she was saying. It's just in a slightly different way that people weren't as used to back then.
Yeah, but maybe Frontline, the Working Dog, wanted to bring that to our attention to kind of make us think about it a bit more. It was a very kind of, excuse the pun, black and white kind of, she's racist, we're not. We're just going to publicise her as being racist and not actually scrutinise this. And that's what, One Nation and Pauline, they all jumped on this, and they used the media to their advantage, and especially when it came to, mainstream, when it came to broadsheet newspapers and Sydney Morning Herald, they just said, oh, these people are elites and we're, the working class, we're just, all these people up there, they don't know exactly what we're all about, sort of thing. And they just kind of twisted that and used that to that advantage. And that's part of what, the media's role in kind of bringing her to the position she was. And yeah, it was just really, we see it from this Frontline episode. Yeah, they're just peddling the prejudices as well, and not really taking that proper look at what she was about. Maybe that's what that segment was all about, just kind of bringing it to our attention a bit more.
I think, the reason that Pauline Hanson was accepting of this cameo is that, well, one, it's quite a short scene, but basically Pauline comes off rather well compared to Mike, really. It's not a sentiment that's really carried through the rest of the episode.
No, it's a bit of a weird one because Mike is generally positioned as being morally right, but, sort of politically clueless in a way. His heart is in the right place, but anyone else can run rings around him. But this segment doesn't sort of feel like an extension of that. You could sort of see that, Pauline Hanson can manipulate Mike like anyone else. And I guess to some extent that's what they're going for, but you don't sort of get that impression. It doesn't feel like Mike's been played a fool. It's just Mike's not prepared. He hasn't thought things through.
Well, he's not thinking about the issues. It's just all about the minor incorrect details.
Yes. I mean, you'd sort of think the point would be that Mike's heart's in the right place, but he's focused on the wrong things. He's like, we've got to trip you up on figures. If we can, get you to admit that you've got the numbers wrong, I win. But then he's letting through much bigger, goals that she can say her views without him doing any pushback because there's no obvious immediate way to push back on it. I mean, you would say, I guess now if someone said it would be, needs-based welfare, the answer, the next question is, well, who decides who needs the welfare? But, Mike's not that cluey. He's not going to work on that level.
No, I think there wasn't a great deal of awareness amongst white people at that time about how things like that were actually racist, because on the surface, welfare based on needs sounds totally fine, but white people hadn't understood the connection, and they hadn't understood that is a way for people who want to deny all people of colour any help whatsoever and save the welfare resources for their own people. They haven't worked out that that's just these kind of old neo-Nazi types kind of subtly doing that, because that was a thing that started probably in the 80s and 90s, wasn't it? Before that you'd had out and proud neo-Nazi groups and everyone hated them. Well, almost everyone hated them. And then they realised there were these kind of wedge issues, and if they could just soften their own rhetoric a bit, they could actually achieve electoral success. And Pauline Hanson was one of the original ones. And now, 30 years on from that, you've got Trump, you've got other right-wing parties on the rise in different parts of the world. And
you've got Clive
more
Palmer
of them popping up in Australia. Clyde Palmer as well, absolutely. But you've also got Peter Dutton and him shifting the Liberal Party to the right, which is a global trend as well. These kind of centre-right parties shifting off towards the hard right. And I suppose it's really difficult to watch this episode 30 years on because you realise this is the start of it. This is the start of that normalising of this rhetoric. And I wish this episode had been stronger and more perceptive on that point. Having said that, 30 years ago, people weren't so aware of I suppose, things like white privilege and also dog whistle politics. We had white people like us had not understood those things at that time. So you get this episode.
Yeah, and it was just the beginning of that media kind of just... As I've got this recording from Sunday from 1998, I think, and it was just after Hanson had won like a quarter of the seats in Queensland, and it was just this. Everyone was like, "What the hell just happened there?" And then people it just kind of happened, and people didn't realise how it had happened. And then it's just kind of an analysis of how the media's role in kind of building it up and yeah, I'll put it on. It's quite interesting read. It's got lots of interviews with newspaper journalists and other presenters about their thoughts as well, and just how that the media just it is just all about ratings, and it is that kind of it's just all about what was the quote there about the 4 words that would sum up the
we're entertainers, not educators.
That's right. Yeah,
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yep.
After Prowsey assures that the interview had gone well, Mike's back in his office and invites Core, the cleaner, for a beer.
Ooh. Can I just go back slightly before we go to the Core bit?
Sure.
So, afterwards, Mike and Prowsey have a talk on the way out of the studio, and about how some of Mike's best friends are Aboriginal, and how he's on the Reconciliation Council, but he admits he hasn't been to many meetings yet. And this is actually a reference to Ray Martin, because Ray Martin in the mid-90s discovered that he had Aboriginal ancestry. And as a result of this, Ray Martin got very interested in his family history and got involved in the Reconciliation Council. But I think what Frontline are kind of doing a bit of a dig here, because I think they're suggesting that Ray Martin got all these nice newspaper stories and magazine stories or whatever about discovering his Aboriginal ancestry and how interesting that all was. But he wasn't really doing a hell of a lot to help Aboriginal people. So that's the reference there in case anyone's wondering about that.
Yeah. Well, because Ray's standing in the public view has sort of improved in recent years, because there was that long stretch where Ray Martin was like, John Safran was going through his bins and Ray Martin was complaining that, Enough Rope was just ripping him off and, why can't they give him an interview show? And he wasn't doing himself any favours with his outside appearances, whereas now I think people have sort of softened a lot towards him, and he's considered a much more avuncular fellow.
Yeah, he turns up. He does a lot of stuff with. Well, the only time I ever see Ray Martin, because I don't live in the country, of course, but Dan Ilic does a lot of stuff with him. Well, does a bit of stuff with him. Ray Martin turns up on Dan Ilic's podcast, and he was in that lockdown sketch comedy show that Dan Ilic produced and stuff like that. But this is this bit, this thing where he discovered his ancestry. That was while he was presenting a current affair. So, which was, I guess, kind of ironic given the kind of stories that ACA would have done about Aboriginal people at that time.
Let's go back to Core, the cleaner, who is having a beer.
Why don't you come and have a drink? Yeah, come on in, come in. Take that off, come in and have a drink. Come on in, Core. Come in and park your ass. Feel like a beer? Oh, sure. Good. No, I was just thinking, this occurred to me then that, we, over the years, and lately we haven't had a chance to have our old chats. Yeah, so I thought, yeah, it's imported grog. You just do that.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, cheers. Hey. What do you know about BMWs?
Nothing much.
Man of the people.
All his friends are Asian. All his friends are Asian.
Yeah, I just like that park your ass. All I thought of last time I heard that was when Front Bottom's instructing someone, park your ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there's also the through line about Mike's trying to get the car because what he mainly uses the whiteboard for, apart from all the coloured hats stuff, is trying to work out what car he wants.
Mike and Jeff discussed the aftermath of his interview with Hansen as well.
I mean, she's saying to the hundreds of millions of Australians, it's okay to be a racist bigot.
I don't think she said exactly that.
Well, I didn't let her. That's why I won the debate.
It wasn't really a debate. I mean, the issue.
Yes, it was. I did them at school. Affirmative, negative. For her, against her.
Mike, I think you've missed the point.
Well, what, Jeffrey?
Have you read her maiden speech?
I had a go at it last night.
Take one of the things she says.
All right. All Asians should go back to Asia.
She didn't say that.
Well, I'm summarising. All right. Aborigines are bad.
She didn't say that.
I read it.
Where?
On the auto cue.
On the auto cue.
Where all his opinions are.
It's a bit weird that Jeff is sort of not sticking up for Hansen exactly, but kind of the voice of reason. Some of these bits made me wonder. I mean, I guess they plan the episodes out quite well, but it did feel like there was perhaps a scene missing at the end where all Jeff's sort of pedantry about her speech would actually result in some sort of payoff where they would point out something that she said that actually was bad. But yeah, you never sort of got to that. It was really just Mike making these generalizations and Jeff saying, well, she didn't actually say that. Whereas, I guess, again, from our point of view today, you would go, she didn't need to say it. Everyone who shares her views knew what she was saying. She just didn't spell it out in a way that you can kind of point to and go, and here's the bit where she said to send all Asians home, because she just said a whole lot of vague things that her fans who want to send Asians home heard her saying, yeah, she's on our side.
To be fair, it had been less than a year since she'd been in Parliament, but she has had, a decade or few to show us what she's like now.
Well, yeah, there's that. You sort of can't blame them for not being fully aware, but she's been on a pretty set trajectory, apart from that Dancing with the Stars bit.
I'm glad I was still in London when that happened, Alison.
Yeah, I'm aware that it happened, but I mean, there was also the stuff about her. Was it she went to jail for political fraud or something? I'm not really across the details.
Yeah, we don't need facts when it comes to we don't need.
We'll move on.
Exactly.
We'll move on.
Yeah, she's a jailbird. That's all I'm going to say.
I think earlier I said something about how many seats she won, and actually she probably didn't win any seats at all. But the whole because someone's going to get pedantic about it and say no, she didn't. She won a lot of votes, is what I was trying to say.
We're talking about the episode, not anything else. So
yes,
if you want to know what One Nation's voting figures were, go on Wikipedia and look it up.
They're just
or make it up.
They're not real.
Yeah. It turns out
numbers.
within this episode, back to the numbers. Hold on, let's get you back into the line.
Don't talk about superannuation.
Yes, there we go.
There's more numbers coming up though. About Pauline Hanson's popularity in polling.
It turns out as per a tabloid poll, 63% agree with Hansen, but a Frontline viewer poll is 81%.
Well, they're just book numbers, right?
Yeah, book numbers, yeah.
Book numbers.
Who are the 19% who are watching?
It's a totally scientific survey. Open to anybody who can afford the 0055 number.
Mike drags his whiteboard into Prowsey's office where Emma, Brooke and Marty are to green hat his thoughts on inadvertently exposing their audience to prejudice. After writing a list of groups that have come under fire from Hansen, Mike wants a positive story on each. And as he walks off, Emma has her own green hat on.
May I?
Here we go.
Uh-oh. So, we want a story about Aborigines. What would we do? Let me think. I know. Drunks. What about Asians? I know. Stealing. Jobs. Vietnamese?
Drug dealers.
Drugs, thank
Don't
you.
encourage them.
Chinese, triads. They also kill pandas. Please, one stereotype at a time. Japanese, I know. Buying our land. Homeless, well, drugs again. And what about the unemployed?
Bludgers.
Bludgers. Nice.
Is there a point to all of this?
The point is, in order to chase ratings, we present distorted, hateable stereotypes. And then we have the gall to turn around and criticise someone like Pauline Hanson for being prejudiced. I used to have a headmistress like you.
Well done, Emma.
Yep. Now, Friday night, funny man Elliot Rhodes takes on Hanson.
I don't like migrants, I give them all the chop. I don't want them coming into my fish and chip shop. People say I'm stupid, but I couldn't care. I only sell whiting, you won't find blackfish there.
I'm not touching that one. He really has done it again. Well done, Elliot. And we'll catch you next week.
That laugh sounds like very George McFly, Back to the Future.
We forgot to
just
ask Boris about
Elliot's
that.
outfit. Oh my god!
Yeah,
Elliot Rhodes. They'll normally put a silly hat on him or something, and that's it. But this is full makeup, wig, glittery sort of version of Pauline Hanson's suit, jacket. Unbelievable.
Gee, I wonder where Pauline Pantsdown got her inspiration.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And immediately after that, it's pointed out, well, why are we having a go at Pauline Hanson for running a fish and chip shop? It's just as stereotypical as all the stuff on the whiteboard.
Yeah, that is a true fact about Pauline Hanson, is that people sort of underestimated her because she had a kind of nasal voice and she ran a fish and chip shop and she was a woman. And so there are prejudices working against her. But on the other hand, Pauline Hanson clearly wasn't a dummy. She was smart enough to let people think that about her. And then actually, she was very successful at what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because she really wasn't any of those things.
No.
So,
I mean, she was smart enough to know that what her voters wanted from her was something that was unpalatable to the mainstream Australia if said out loud. She knew enough to sort of couch what she was saying in terms that the media would go, oh, yeah, okay, well, maybe she has a point about merit-based welfare or whatever. And, she was quite cluey. And, just the fact that a lot of the attacks on her were aimed at these very broad stereotypes really undermined the attacks because they weren't based on anything substantive.
Well, then after the show, Emma calls out Mike on the prejudice, and Mike does ask Prousey if he's worked on Mike's minority group list until...
Hey, mate. Come in. Fuck your ass.
Brilliant.
Good on Core.
What's kind of interesting about that is, Core's obviously, impersonating Mike and thinks he's mates with Mike as well. But at the same time, Prousey's in the office off his nut on... whiskey. Looks like he's getting into the whiskey or something.
Yes.
But also the thing with Prousey is, and they never say this, but it's quite clear that he also takes a lot of coke or something, right? So
Really?
Prousey's both drunk and probably done a line or two, and and then they have a go at Core for having one beer.
Well, I think it's kind of Cora's got ideas above his station, which is fatal around Mike. Mike has always, right from the start, been someone who's been very clear about, where the lines are. Some people deserve Mike's respect, and other people are people who wash Mike's car. And that's always been, very clear with the character that he's, he'll listen to some people and other people are there to listen to him.
Yeah, and there's the bloke who washes Mike's car, who he calls Mr. Chong, but he's presumably got a real name that Mike's too above him to actually remember.
Yeah.
And then the bit where he just shuts Emma down when he asks for the coffee, just when she was about to say something interesting and insightful.
Yeah.
Again, it's that whole this is I'm up here and you're down there sort of thing.
The next night, Mike tells Emma he's not impressed that Cor went into his office and had a beer without an invite, and then thinks Cor needs to learn a bit more about culture.
It's a culture where Mike tells you what you can do. That's what he means.
It's a one-way street past Mike's mansion. Yeah.
Then Mike interviews Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander advisor Noel Pearson about Hanson.
The race debate rages on, and we're joined tonight by ATSIC advisor Noel Pearson for his views on the matter. Noel, good to catch up.
G'day.
Pauline Hanson, Noel. The issue just won't seem to go away.
Well, I think the media has got to take a lot of the blame for this.
Oh, I agree with you, Noel. I think it has.
Frontline included.
I'm sorry?
Cultural and racial stereotypes are your trade. You guys are responsible for creating the very swamp out of which Pauline Hanson has just emerged.
Well, hang on a minute.
You people trade in prejudice. You've been picking at the scab of racism since you started.
Well, a scab's a strong word.
You're in the scab-sucking business. And I want to make a few more points.
Boom. Mic drop.
Wow. But baby-faced Noel Pearson there, this is a view from 30 years on, but, Noel Pearson has been in the media for more than 30 years. How young does he look there? He looks about 15 or something. and now he's a sort of older man.
I like the way
brilliant.
When he was talking to Mike beforehand, it was all very friendly. And then as soon as the cameras go on, he just starts laying into him. It's very much sort of that experienced media performer, which Mike sort of doesn't come up against too often.
Well, that's because he doesn't go to the Reconciliation Council enough.
No, if he'd been going to the meetings, he would have known what to expect.
Yeah.
Well, Mike's fired up and joins Prowse in his office, angry over Pearson, blaming Frontline for creating people like Hanson. Mike also wished that he got the guy from Yothu Yindi instead.
Yeah, where's the guy from Yothu Yindi?
Yeah.
The guy from Yothu Yindi probably would have done an even better job. They were pretty clued.
Yeah.
Well, Mike wants to write another list on the whiteboard, but before he notices Emma's work on Mike's list, Prowse moves him away, distracting him to go get a drink. Wow. And then as that episode ends with the mid-credits, you got Jeff trying to explain in detail to Mike about the devil and the shadow metaphor, which he still doesn't understand.
No. Never understand.
No. Struggle is real. Bloody hell.
So, any interesting things in the credits, Daniel? Did you spot anything? I didn't. I'm just putting it out there in case there was something.
Nothing out of the ordinary, as far as I can tell. But yeah, look, I think we did get this quite a few times that one of the points that's made a lot of times is that Pauline Hanson is probably not the cause of all the racism in the media, but more of a symptom.
Well, yeah, I think that the episode does a decent job of explaining that the causes of what Pauline Hanson represents are, to a large extent, the media's fault. But I think part of the problem the episode has itself is that by doing that, it lets Hanson off the hook a bit. It's so keen to represent the media as the real problem, which it is, but it's sort of saying, and the media is also, exploiting Hanson's comments to, fuel these fires. And
it's that I've mentioned the symbiotic relationship before in terms of interviews. And I would say definitely in the 3 decades since this episode of Frontline, the media has needed Pauline Hanson, and then Pauline Hanson has definitely needed the media.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. I think that Frontline was a bit ahead of the curve there. If they'd done, if this episode had happened a few years later,
Yeah.
you'd think they would have made it more obvious that Hanson's using them, they're using her. The end result is bad, whichever direction it's coming from. But it's just that I think because it was still quite early days and they got on pretty early with Hanson, that there was still a sense of the media's using her and she's just, saying stuff. Whereas it becomes obvious as the years go on that she's not just saying stuff; she's saying what people think she's saying.
Yeah, and sadly, we're seeing all this today with Trump, and it's just the same story. Anything controversial that he says that everyone picks up on, it just gives him more airtime.
And I mean, a lot of her messages are, superficially attractive. When you say merit-based, welfare, people go, yeah, of course, welfare should go to people who deserve it. But that opens the door to other questions, and usually their answers are, well, I'll decide who deserves it. And, people like me and people like us should be the ones who are telling other people how to live.
That concludes Frontline Season 3, Episode 3, and the Champagne Comedy Podcast, Episode 69. 69, dude!
Totally. Excellent.
Phil and Ted.
Party on.
There is no link between 69 and Pauline Hanson. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to email out your complaints to don'tgiveashit@gmail.com or but all the good stuff at Champagne
they're not
Late Show
listening anymore, don't worry.
Yeah. Check this
Stopped listening hours ago.
Check the episode show notes for our socials, but if you do, we'll probably block you now and not give you a right of reply. On Facebook, search Champagne Comedy Podcast Group. Please don't. And buymeacoffee.com/TLS Champagne Pod. And we need that petty cash filled up because Kim and I bought a coffee from that. And, thank you
I saw the credit there with my own eyes, so it's real.
It's real.
You bought one coffee and you shared it, with straws?
No, Matt bought me a coffee, but we use there's a Buy Me a Coffee fund, right? So
yeah. And then the coffee cost $8. So,
wow.
But then again, I
that was for two.
Yeah, that was for two.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you again, Alison, Daniel, Kim, and Tony for coming on, and also you, the listener. I'm Matt. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you at next episode.
Yeah, catch you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Champagne Comedy Podcast, created by fans for the fans. For more information on this podcast, please visit champagnecomedy.com. Produced by Matt Fulton Productions, mattfulton.com.au.
Hey, mate. Come in. Fuck your ass.
Oh my God.
It was either that or please explain.